Hi students, welcome back to this channel English Literature with Idam. I'm back with another fascinating topic, and that is the difference between post-structuralism and the post-humanism. Both these areas are emerging in contemporary literary scholarship, and both of them come out of the postmodern theory. And post-structuralism and post-humanism, though share the same approach, but their aim is quite different. And in this video and in this lecture, I would be highlighting all those differences which are there between the post-structuralism and the post-humanism. So if you are preparing for any competitive exam or for any job exam in English literature, so this video is going to be helpful for you in the preparation. So without wasting our time, let us begin. As post-structuralism emerged in 1960s as a critique of structuralism. Earlier, structuralism started a movement where the meaning was central. It was the deciding factor of the reality. As language and its meaning is final as per the structuralism. But post-structuralism critiques the centrality of the meaning and the reality. And it says that the language and its meaning is not centered, but it is always fluid, it is always slippery, it is always postponed. As influenced by linguistics, philosophy, and literary theory, post-structuralist critics include Jacques Derrida, Michel Foucault, Roland Barthes, and Julia Kristeva. They all focus largely on textual analysis and cultural analysis. So they think that there is no final and central meaning to any text or to any idea, but the meaning is always slippery. So it based on the different interpretations. So there is no inherent or clear meaning in any of the text, in any of the cultural analysis. Whereas the post-humanism begins mainly in late 20th century and 21st century, and it is influenced by science and technological studies, ecology and cybernetics. As post-humanism comes after the humanism movement, which believes that human is at the center of the universe. Human is the deciding factor. Human is centric to every notion of the society. So this idea particularly originates in the Renaissance humanism, where human is at the center of the universe, which we say the anthropocentric. So human centrality is actually the foundation of so many other discriminations and disparities in the society as per the posthumanism. Because when we keep the human at the center of the universe, then we place everything which is non-human at the periphery. And everything then becomes the non-human. So non-human doesn't get respect, it doesn't get values, it doesn't get the fundamental rights. Think of the animals. When we keep the human at the center of the universe, we automatically degrade the position of the non-humans or animals. And then they are exploited. They are degraded. And think of the environment, which is not human as per the conventional understanding of human definition. So then the environment is exploited, it is degraded, and human uses it for its own sake, for its personal benefit or personal purpose. Various theorists like Donna Haraway and Catherine Hales and Rosie Broidati, they all critique the post-human notions and they integrate the human philosophy with technology, biology, and environmental studies. So as per the human thinking, human was at the center of the universe and it was separate, it was isolated. But post-human thinkers, they believe that human is integrated with technology, biology, and the environment. So human is not isolated, but it is a subset or a part of the whole chain. The next is the aim. As post-structuralism aims to deconstruct the dominant narratives and it exposes the hidden power structure in the discourse. It says that language constructs the reality and it constructs the discourse which is ambiguous, which is fluid. So it becomes skeptical, doubtful of the narratives created by the language or the words, and then it exposes the hidden power structure in the discourse. And then it deconstructs all those meanings and the realities or narratives created by the language. It also shows that our knowledge and our truth, our realities, they are socially and linguistically constructed. So it says that whatever we believe, whatever our norms, values, notions are, they are socially and linguistically constructed. The way we see that women are biologically not constructed, but culturally and socially constructed. So in the same way, our social reality, knowledge, and the truth, they all are socially and linguistically constructed, and it encourages the critical reading of texts, institutions, and the ideologies. It doesn't blindly follow the set rules, the norms, and the narratives, but rather it supports and encourages the readers to critically interpret the texts, institutions, and the ideologies. And it also seeks to challenge the fixed meanings and the authoritative interpretations. As post-structuralism challenges the set norms, the set rules, the set ideas in the society, and also it also asks to reinterpret the authoritative interpretations, the authoritative narratives. Whereas the post-humanism rethinks the humanity's place in a technologically and ecologically interconnected world. Earlier, the human was isolated and separated from the society, from the ecology. But post-humanism aligns the human with ecology and the technology. And it also challenges the central position of the humans, which we call the anthropocentrism, and which also gives the reinforcement to the human-centered thinking. Then it encourages ethical consideration of the non-human entities and the technological beings. As when we keep the human at the center, or we keep the human-centered thinking, we are somewhat excluding the non-human entities, and which is unethical or immoral. So posthumanism says that we should be ethical, we should be moral while positioning the human in the society. And what is the human position in the society? That is interrelated, that is interconnected with the non-humans. But human is not isolated. And posthumanism also aims to redefine the human identity, subjectivity, and position in the age of digital and the biological transformation. So it repositions the human with the technology and the biological transformation, rather isolating it from all the social aspects. And next is that post-structuralism primarily critiques the stability of language, meaning, and the text, as I already mentioned. That post-structuralism basically deconstructs the centrality of the language, centrality of the meaning, centrality of the ideas and the realities and the narratives. And it also argues that meaning is not fixed, but constantly shifting due to linguistic structures. And it Ferdinand de Saussure, as in the structuralism, gives the two concepts, synchronic and diasynchronic. And where he says that every time the word changes, but that change doesn't reflect the change in the meaning or the reality, which becomes a weak point in his linguistic theory. And later on, Jacques Derrida takes that weak point and criticizes the Ferdinand de Saussure and says that when the meaning changes, when the language changes, then automatically the reality changes. New narratives come into that. And at one point, they both are similar, and that is that they believe the language is arbitrary. Language is constructed, language is made. Meaning is constructed and meaning is made. But Saussure believes that language is centered, it is the final authority. But post-structuralism believes that language is not final, it is slippery, it is fluid, it is always in the postponement. Post-structuralism also focuses on how the discourses construct knowledge, meaning, truth, identity, and the narratives. And it also examines our power relations, which are embedded in language and its representation. Whereas the post-humanism focuses on decentering the human subjectivity as the dominant subject of knowledge. In traditional understanding, the human was dominated, the human position was central, human subjectivity was central and dominated. And human was the main source and foundation of all the discourses, of the knowledge, of the interpretation, of the narratives. Posthumanism also explores the relationship between the humans, technology, animals, and the environment. And as I mentioned earlier, that human is not isolated, but it is aligned with the technology, animals, and the environment. And it shows the interconnection, interrelated identities. Posthumanism also questions the traditional idea that humans are separate from or superior to other entities. As the traditional understanding and narrative was human centered and human was superior. But posthumanism challenges the very notion of human centrality, and it separates human from that superior or dominant position, and it aligns the human with all the other entities. And it believes that everything is equal, there is no superior, there is no powerful, everybody has its own agency. Posthumanism also emphasizes interconnected systems of biological and the technological life. Think of the prosthetic legs, peacemakers, artificial limbs, and also all those devices which we apply on the body. So, with the technological devices, the technological machineries, we extend our biological limit, our biological life. So, posthumanism also believes that human is not completely biological, but it is technological as well. Because when we use the glasses, for example, to extend our vision, extend our eyes power, extend our watching power, then we become the biological as well as the technological. For example, when we use any medicinal power to increase our capacity to enhance our power abilities, then we are using the technology to enhance our biological limitation and abilities and the capabilities. So at that time, we become the biological as well as the technological, which Donna Haraway in the posthumanism says that we are the cyborgs. Cyborg is the biological and the technological at the same time. And this cyborgian identity is very famous in this technological age because every one of us is connected with artificial intelligence. Everybody of us is interconnected with the mobile phones, the smartphones, and we are not separated or isolated, but we are connected with the technology. And this way, we are cyborgs, and posthumanism emphasizes this interconnectedness link of human with the technology. And when we talk about the human subjectivity, post-structuralism rejects the idea of a stable and unified human subjectivity. As the way language and meaning and narrative is not stable, human subjectivity is also not stable. It claims that our very identity is constructed through discourse, language, and the cultural systems. So, whatever we are, there are set narratives for our identity, which ultimately make us. So, our identity is actually constructed through discourse, the narratives, the meaning, language, and the cultural systems. And the very idea of our self means everything within us becomes self. So the self is fragmented and shaped by power structures and the social narratives. So we are not isolated, but we are constructed and built through the power structures, through the social narratives. Post-structuralism also influenced by thinkers like Jacques Derrida, Michel Foucault, who challenged the humanist subjectivity. And they says that human subjectivity, the human identity is postponed and the fluid. It's not centered. It's not final. Whereas the post-humanism moves beyond the human subjectivity entirely by redefining what counts as human being. Because earlier the set definitions were quite hypocritical, quite politically loaded. And humans' definition was quite discriminatory. For example, if I see the human definition during the Renaissance humanistic movement, we see that human is somebody who is complete being. So this complete being is having the leg, having the rationality, having the intellectuality, having the feelings, the emotions, having the sense of self, also having the complete biological body like fingers, like head, like limbs, like legs, arms, everything. So this was the traditional definition of human being. But suppose somebody is disabled, somebody is rationally, intellectually disabled. So does that person count as human being? Somebody doesn't have the arms. Do we still count that human being as the human being? If somebody doesn't have any particular limb, biologically, somebody is biologically disabled or incomplete, do we still think that that human being is that person is human being? So this traditional definition of the humanity is actually hypocritical. It is politically loaded, and human created that definition in order to make its place at the central, at the center of the universe. And in that definition, everything was excluded. Only the complete human being is considered as the complete human being. So this way, it reinforces the idea of discrimination. It creates the hierarchies on the basis of color, creed, race, agency, power, feelings, emotions, empathy. And then the humans, non-humans, the animals were decentered, they were degraded, they were discriminated and exploited. Posthumanism also argues that humans are hybrid beings. As earlier I mentioned, that human is made of the technology and the biology. And it is intervened with technology, biology, and the ecology. So our identity is interconnected and made due to our relationship with the technology, biology, and the ecology. And posthumanism also questions the boundaries between the human, machine, and the animal, and comes into conclusion that all these boundaries are blurred. And that blurring of the boundaries is the need of the hour. If we create the boundaries, we automatically give the privileges to the different categories. For example, a human is traditionally and conventionally privileged because it is human being, it is complete being. And then the animals are exploited, the environment is exploited. So this boundary between the human and animal is blurred in the 21st century. And posthumanism also promotes a post-anthropocentric view of the subjective. Earlier, the human was anthropocentric. And that central position creates the human superior, dominated, and colonials. But posthumanism challenges and promotes that post-anthropocentric view. And post-anthropocentric view is that human is not dominated superior, but it is interconnected, it is interlinked interrelated with all the other non-human beings. And post-structuralism believes that language is central. It produces reality rather than merely distributing it. So whatever the language creates, for example, if we say the mobile phone is mobile phone today, structuralism says that this is name is final in every culture, in every discourse. But suppose if mobile phone is called telephone or something else in any other culture, in any other society. So does the mobile phone's position, the shape, its meaning, its value and the function changes? No, it doesn't change, but its meaning is changes. Its meaning is changed. So that meaning actually creates a reality as per the structuralists. But post-structuralism believes that meaning is not final. It keeps changing. It keeps changing on the basis of the culture, on the basis of the region, on the basis of the timeline, on the basis of the chronicles. And post-structuralism also believes that meaning arises from differences within linguistic systems. So whatever the meanings are created in the society, those all meanings are created due to the differences. For example, a chair is chair. Why? Because it's not table. A mobile phone is mobile phone. Why? Because it's not glass. A laptop is laptop. Why? Because it's not pen. So the differences ultimately there. And on the different basis of those differences, we create the meaning. We will create the meaning. And post-structuralism believes that though meaning is created due to the differences, but that meaning is still postponed, not final and unstable. And it also believes that our texts, language can have multiple interpretations and where there is no final meaning. And this idea aligns with I.A. Richards' that poetic experiment where every student gave the different response, the different interpretation of it. And it also links with the receptionist theory or the reader response theory, where the readers create the meaning, not the author. So author is not central, but it's the every reader creates the meaning. So there is no centrality. And post-structuralism also believes that analysis often focuses on deconstruction of texts and the discourses. Whereas posthumanism believes that our language is important, but it is not only the system that shapes the reality. It believes that language is only the medium of expression, but it doesn't create the whole reality. Our material body, which is our biological body, the technologies which we use, the ecosystem which we share, for example, the oxygen, the carbon dioxide, they are the components of the environment, or the ecosystem. The vegetables, the fruits, the cultures, they are the part of the ecosystem. And the machines, they also produce meaning and the agency. So our self is our self because so many other entities and the systems give us the meaning of our self. And we are human being because we have the deep connection with the nature, the ecosystem. We are human being because we have the deep connection with the technology. We are human beings because we have the deep connection with the biological entities, biological bodies within ourselves. It also emphasizes the materiality and the embodiment alongside discourse. So embodiment is when the human consciousness, the human features, the human thinking, feeling, and emotions are presented without the biological body. For example, if artificial intelligence can think, feel, act, and make decisions like a human being, then artificial intelligence is not the biological being, but it works like the biological being. So that is the embodiment, that is the embodied experience. And it also moves beyond the purely textual analysis. As posthumanism doesn't completely believes on the textual analysis of the human's meaning, but it moves beyond, and it believes that very technology in the society is central to the human subjectivity, human discourse in the contemporary age. And post-structuralism generally examines technology as part of the discursive system and the cultural narratives. Post-structuralism believes on the technology, but it doesn't completely rely on the technology, though, and instead it aligns the technology with the contemporary cultural narratives, the social narratives, and the technological narratives. And it focuses more on the interpretation of the representations rather than on technological transformation. It believes that we need to interpret the interpretation before interpreting the things. And it promotes the thinking of interpreting a challenging the conventional narratives, the conventional interpretations, or the conventional discourse, rather than believing on the transformation through the technology. And it believes that technology is discussed through the power and the knowledge framework. So we discuss the technology in the post-structuralism. But for the post-structuralism, technology is just a component associated and linked with the language. So again, the language is the central position as the center of a post-structuralist theory. Whereas posthumanism believes that technology is central, and also it examines the cyborgs. As earlier I mentioned, the cyborg is the combination of blend of cybernetic and organic, biology and technology, organism and the machines, artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and the digital systems. So it examines the human's interconnection and link with the technology, and the artificial intelligence, which is behaving like the human being, or the biotechnology, the technology which we use for our bodies, also medicines, also the peacemaker devices, also the operation techniques, also the clinical technology which we use for the betterment or the operation purpose of the human being, and also the digital system, the digital identities, the digital discourse, the digital literacy. And it argues that the technology reshapes the human identity. So because I share the technology, I use the technology in my life. I am because I wear the glasses. I am because I have the Apple phone. I am because I use the laptop. I am because I use the artificial intelligence in my daily life. So the very technology, the evolution, the technological agency creates myself, my identity. And it also considers the human and machines as co-evolving system. As earlier I mentioned, that human is not isolated, human is not separated, but rather it is co-evolving, it is correlating, it is interrelated with the whole technological and environmental and ecosystem. So